Welcome to the Brilliantly British channel. My name is Lawrence and today I'm going to show you how to make frosted fancies. So as I show you how, please sit back, relax with a cup of tea in hand, putting those feet of yours up to, and enjoy this episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Everyone that was raised in the United Kingdom will be familiar with Mr Kipling treats. Be it the various fancies or finger cakes or biscuits, all who have tried them will remember them fondly. With this in mind, in this episode, we'll be sharing our recipe, which will be one of many to come, a Kipling classic in the form of these frosted fancy cakes. Step by step, we'll walk you through the baking, whipping, and icing before we crown everything off at the end with a session of tasting. So now, with the introductions made and your interest peaking, please allow me to introduce the ingredients to you. For today's Brilliantly British frosted fancies, you will need some caster sugar, some icing sugar, some plain white flour, some baking powder, some butter, some milk, some cooking oil, a neutral cooking oil I might add, some eggs, some vanilla paste, extract, or you can go for vanilla pod, followed by a little pinch or two of salt to avoid the occurrence of bland food. And that, my friends, is all, yes, all that you will need for today's Brilliantly British frosted fancies. But before you get started, before you do anything at all, please switch on your kettles, brew yourselves a nice cup of hot tea so that you can sip on that whilst you bake. To begin preparing a batch of frosted fancies, first take a moment to combine your flour with baking powder and salt, using a whisk before setting aside ready for later on. After beginning to preheat your oven, to begin forming your cake batter by hand or with a stand mixer, first turn in soft room temperature butter, which should be combined with your neutral cooking oil. The two fats will appear to resist combining at first, but with time a homogeneous mixture should form, at which point then would be the time to cream your fats with sugar until noticeably paler and fluffy, followed by the addition of your vanilla, proceeding by beating in your eggs one at a time, adding another egg once the previous has been fully absorbed. The mixture should become more voluptuous with each egg, with the final result resembling the emulsion on screen now, which should have your dry prepared mixture first sifted in and then by hand folded in, before being finished by a splash of milk to further hydrate and loosen the batter to perfection. The batter should then be transferred to a non-stick or baking paper lined 4-sided baking pan before being knocked to dislodge pockets of air, as well as evenly spread the batter before being relocated to your oven to bake perfectly, leaving you, coincidentally, with time to relax and rehydrate with Brilliantly British content in hand, making sure to help us out by liking and subscribing. Thank you. Once baked, the cake should be golden brown and aromatic, but before getting carried away, admiring it, if possible, remove and overturn it in order to level out the top of the cake for best results when presenting, which once set aside will leave you with yet more time to relax and rehydrate with Brilliantly British content in hand, remembering, of course, if you haven't done so already, to like and subscribe. Thank you. After taking a deserved break with the cake still cooling, for the buttercream topping with an electric whisk or by hand admirably, beat ultra soft butter until noticeably fluffy and pale, to which sifted icing sugar should be added, with it being folded in at first to avoid an icing sugar dust cloud, thereafter beating the contents until homogeneous and smooth before finishing with vanilla flavouring and a pinch of salt, with the finishing touch being a dash of milk to obtain our desired consistency. As a final step, before recalling your cooled cake, prepare the much needed icing, which will coat your fancies. Into a suitably sized bowl by hand, combine water with icing sugar, tablespoons at a time, adding more when absolutely all the water has been completely absorbed, as icing sugar is notoriously deceptive. Incrementally, with each addition of water, the contents will at first coalesce before gradually loosening to form a slurry, at which point every further addition of water should be added with care, against the all too common occurrence of the icing becoming too thin. With the perfect icing consistency for this episode's application being ribbon-like and leaving short, lasting streaks when drizzled. With the now cooled cake recalled, like many new product unpacking videos, take a moment to savor the time I spent unwrapping this perfect sponge cake, as each sheet was slowly peeled away to expose the buttery, soft sponge beneath. Then, with the cake now turned out onto a chopping board, precisely divide the cake into pieces no larger than 5 by 5 centimeters or 2 by 2 inch pieces, with the easiest way to go about dividing probably being to half and then half again until the cake has been equally and completely divided. The pieces were then placed upon a wire rack above a tray with about a centimeter or roughly half an inch between them. Then, either by hand or with a piping gun, top the cakes with your buttercream, which should then be shaped to give the cakes a peak, sloping down to their sides. To finish the cakes, the icing was transferred to a pouring jug and slowly drizzled over each cake in order to coat them ideally from top to bottom, with the trick being to pour the icing on the cakes slowly from the top to the bottom, which should encourage it to flow down and along the sides of the cakes. With the final result, once the icing was left to harden and set, being these brilliant white, dainty cakes, which when halved reveal a delicate sponge with a cloud-like buttercream peak. So now, with a batch of frosted fancies made and your interest peaking, I think it's high time for tasting, tasting, tasting. Are you ready? Are you steady? 3, 2, 1. First thing that hits me is actually a feeling of nostalgia. The flavors that are present in this batch of frosted fancies reminds me of a very classic English British birthday cake, one that I will have had many of as a child. Just has those classic flavors that everyone loves. Vanilla, lovely light and fluffy buttercream, and mentioning the buttercream, I insist it'll be an injustice of some sort if you choose to serve these cold. Please serve these cakes at room temperature, because then the buttercream will be almost like whipped cream, in that it will just be light and fluffy rather than cold and dense. That goes as well for the cake, which is just firm enough to be able to allow the icing to cling to it, but not too firm that it doesn't just disintegrate when you bite into it. These are amazing, and these are the simplest version of Fancies. More for sure will be appearing on the channel, I give you my word. But with all of that being said, please, my dear friends, my dear viewers, go out, as I always say, get the ingredients to make yourselves a batch of frosted fancies, because I hope you are now sold. So please, please, please make these frosted fancies, please. Thank you all for allowing me to show you how to make frosted fancies. Knowing that you loved this episode, Don't forget to click on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button so that you don't miss any of our new releases. Tell everyone, and I mean everyone, about the brilliantly British food on this channel, and follow us on all of the social media platforms that this channel is on, and I will see you